Welcome to the October 15th edition of the ListenToUs.com video log, brought to you by ListenToUs.com, exposing the threat of the New World Order. As always, any website or news agency that I mention during the blog does not mean that ListenToUs.com supports any or all of the content found on that website. And importantly, I got a bad haircut. Excuse it. It'll grow back out. Maybe you think it's a good one. I don't know. Anyway, got a lot of stuff to cover today. First thing I want to start with is a article from wherever it's at here, onenewsnow.com, rating Mike Huckabee, who is a choice of the values voters. He won the AFA.net value voters debate that we talked about a few weeks ago. Anyway, this says report card slams Huckabee on illegal alien issue. It says an English language advocate says former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee is worse than his GOP opponent Rudy Giuliani when it comes to the issue of illegal immigration. Huckabee even labeled an effort to crack down on illegal aliens in Arkansas as inflammatory and race baiting. So in other words, by wanting to uphold the existing laws on illegal immigration in this country, that's inflammatory and race baiting. Come on. You know, these establishment candidates that are being pushed down our throat are all the same. Every single one of them. If the mainstream media is pushing them, they're probably not somebody you want to vote for. Which brings me to Ron Paul. Ron Paul wants to crack down on illegal immigration and uphold the existing laws of this country. This is, you know, to me it's a no-brainer. You want to vote for somebody who thinks you can change the Constitution on the whims of society? Vote for that person. You know, there's nothing I can do about it. Unfortunately, that's what Americans do. But if you want to think and look at what the document that made this country great, it's the Constitution. Ron Paul is a constitutionalist, libertarian, whatever you want to call him. He's the one who wants to go back to the Constitution and reinstate it to the greatness that caused this country to become a world power. Smaller government, lower taxes, less government interference in our lives, less government interference in foreign affairs, do away with the UN, do away with the Department of Education, give the control back where it belongs, the control of how we educate our children, the control of our lives, of our freedoms, of everything back to where it belongs, and that's back in the hands of the people. Take it out of the government. This is not a Ron Paul blog this week, but I just wanted to bring that to light. Let me share with you a blog I ran across on freesociety.com, a message board or a discussion. This comes from Numbers USA. I'm assuming it's numbersusa.com. I'm not familiar with them. They got over 500,000 members, so I'm going to check them out and see what they're all about. But on the surface, this sounds like a good thing to do. It says, "Dear opponent," I'm going to read directly from the posting here. It says, "Dear opponents of illegal immigration, you have a chance to help pass an amendment Tuesday that would effectively end the outlaw sanctuary city movement. You have to start voting first thing Tuesday morning and ask your senators to vote for Senator Vitter's anti-sanctuary amendment to the H.R. 3093 appropriations bill. This is known as the CJS spending bill, Commerce, Justice, and Science." And what it basically goes on to say is it's got talking points about what you should say when you call and things of this nature. And again, this is a bill with good and bad legislation in it. And as we talked about a few weeks ago, it's one of the primary problems with this country. We take a bill and we endorse it or allow it to go through because the good in the bill outweighs the bad in the bill. And then we find out later that they pass more legislation that the good in that bill outweighs the bad in that bill, but it compounds the bad of the previous bill. And we end up with a quagmire effectively tying our hands and our freedoms as American citizens, putting us in the police state that we are currently in. But and it'll only get worse. That's a whole nother blog. Anyway, let me read. I did some research on this H.R. 3093 and wanted to point out a few things in the bill. Some of it I feel is pretty good legislation, but there's a lot in it that's not. We're going to start with 511. If I'm reading this correctly, then this is one of the cases that may have happened to some of you out there before, where I read it so many times that I think I've confused myself about it. But if I'm reading it correctly, it sounds like good legislation. Section 511 of H.R. 3093 says, prohibits funding for the implementation of any user fee for background checks under the Brady Handgun Control Act of 1993, and any background check system that does not require and result in the destruction of information submitted by an individual certified as eligible to possess or receive a firearm. The first part's pretty exclamatory. In other words, if I go to purchase a firearm, they can't impose a fee upon me for the background check. Good. Brady Bill's flawed legislation to begin with, but that's a good thing that I don't have to pay. The second thing is, any background check system that does not require and result in the destruction of information submitted by an individual certified as eligible to possess or receive a firearm. If I'm reading this correctly, which I believe I am, that says that if I go to purchase a firearm, I fill out an application, they did a background check, the background check comes back that I'm eligible to own a firearm or receive a firearm, then the information that I submitted must be destroyed. That sounds like good legislation. That's less information available about me to whoever. Okay. Moving right along. 520 prohibits the use of funds to deny certain import applications regarding curios, relics, firearms, parts, or ammunition. So in other words, you can't deny funds under the Department of Justice for importing curios, relics, firearms, parts, or ammunition. And since some of the finer weapons throughout the world are made overseas, it sounds like good legislation to me. I don't want them prohibiting the import of those particular firearms. 528. This is what they're talking about in that previous blog. It says, prohibits the use of funds to enter into a contract or entity that does not participate in the basic pilot program enacted by the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act of 1996 to verify alien employment eligibility. Again, sanctuary city stuff. That goes along with 704, prohibits the use of funds to contravene the participation of federal agencies and pilot programs to verify alien employment status. Contravene meaning to act or be counter to violate, to oppose an argument, or to contradict. So to violate. Let me read it again, replacing it. Prohibits the use of funds to violate the participation of federal agencies and pilot programs to verify alien employment status. Sounds like good legislation to me, and that's what they're talking about getting through. 709 prohibits the use of funds to employ unauthorized aliens. Again, same thing. So that's the good I found in this bill as I read through everything. Let's look at some of the bad in the bill. Scroll back up here to Section 106. I'm going to piggyback 106 and Section 107 together. It says it authorizes appropriations for the Ernest F. Hollings Scholarship Program. Authorizes appropriations for the Dr. Nancy Foster Scholarship Program. Why is the government spending our tax dollars in scholarship programs? Hey, I believe everybody should have an education, but I also believe I should be able to choose where my money goes. This is pork spending. Okay? But nobody wants to vote against sending somebody to college. It's that feel-good legislation stuff.